recording.
Change that.
All right. And then schools, if you want to be muted, please. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. We're here with another Illinois Blue STEM author chat. My name is Kimberly Hazel Rudden. I'm the Blue STEM Publicity Co-Chair, and we have a representative from ISLE here who's running our Zoom. I'll turn it over to her to let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Kinsella, and I'm the ISLE Executive Secretary, and we are excited to be able to host these Blue STEM author chat.
All right, and we have schools here today from Willowbrook School in Glenview. We have Kendall Elementary in Naperville. We have Albion Grade School in Albion, and we have Horace Mann Elementary in Oak Park, and we have Cloverdale Elementary in Carroll Stream. But enough about us. We are here today because we have another one of our amazing authors with us. We have Shawn Peters, who wrote the book, The Unforgettable Logan Foster. And this book is so popular, it's not just on our Blue STEM list, it's also on our Rebecca Cottle list as well. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and then we'll get started with questions.
Hi, all. As we said before, I am Shawn Peters. I'm the author of The Unforgettable Logan Foster, as well as the sequel, The Unforgettable Logan Foster and The Shadow of Doubt. There's a really big version of that second book behind me. And I'm really just excited to talk to you all. I've been overwhelmed by how popular the book is in Illinois, and the fact that it's up for 2 awards and other schools are using it in their Battle of the Books. And the reason it's so impressive and amazing for me is that's my first book. This is my debut novel, The Unforgettable Logan Foster, which means that it is the first time a book I wrote has been out in the world. And to know that so many kids like yourselves are kind of into it, and librarians, teachers are so excited about it, means the world to me. I am about 1,400 miles away from all of you. I live in Massachusetts, so it is an hour later for me. So this is my lunch break from my day job, because when I am not writing books, I am a creative director, which means that I help create ads for Google and Bank of America and Staples and a bunch of other brands. And I live in Massachusetts with my wife, who is a teacher. She was a 5th grade teacher when I wrote this book. She now teaches 8th grade English and civics. And I have 2 kids. My daughter Hazel is 23, and my son Teddy is 18, and he's getting ready to go off to college next year and play baseball and study biology. So that's a little bit about me, but I want to know what you want to know about. So everything's on the table. Anything about me, about the book. Let's get into the questions.
All right, I've heard questions before. You're brave to do that. Okay, Miss Ike Miller's class, you're going to be first, and then Miss Onsred, have your 2 students ready to go. You'll be after them.
Hello, thanks so much for being here. Okay, we've pre-selected some questions, so Zoe is going to come up and ask you.
Yeah. Here?
Yeah, there you go.
My question is, does your family help you come up with ideas for your books? And if so, which ideas did they come up with?
That's a great question. Thank you, Zoe. So in general, the ideas for my books come from my own head, and ideas, and they're usually the result of a couple of ideas smashing into each other and creating like a new idea. But I do get ideas or parts of ideas from my family. My family are all very creative. My daughter works in theater, and my son does theater, and my wife is also does a director for like the school theater and stuff. So we're all kind of theater kids, some of us grown up, some of us not so grown up. But I will say that when I was coming up with the idea for The Unforgettable Logan Foster, I didn't have a name for Logan yet. I had an idea, but not a name. And my daughter was about your age at the time. And I said, what should I name this character? And I told her all about the character. And she's the one that came up with the idea of naming him Logan. And I said, why? And she said, she said something like, he sounds like a Logan to me. And the funny thing is, Logan is the name of the airport in Massachusetts, in Boston. And so once she told me that, I got the idea that Logan became a an orphan when he was found in an airport. Now, he wasn't found in Logan Airport, but it's still her suggestion of the name got me thinking in a way that impacted the book. What I think is even more interesting is that there was before The Unforgettable Logan Foster, before I had an agent, before it ever sold, my wife brought it in and read it to her class of fifth graders. So about 80 fifth graders got to hear this book before it was ever a real book. And then I came in and I talked to them like I talking to you all right now. And I asked them for feedback and they really liked a bunch of it, but they had one idea that actually changed the book. And I went back and I rewrote it because the book originally was written with Logan talking to his parents, because his parents, he doesn't know who his real parents are. He's an orphan and he gets fostered by a nice couple named Gil and Margie in the book. But in the original book, he was writing to his mom, because his birth mom, who he never knew. And the kids in the class told me, oh, we didn't like that much. And I realized that if I wrote it so that he was writing to a sibling, a younger brother or sister that he had never met, that it would be more interesting for kids because now he's writing to somebody your age. And that made the book so much better. So sometimes I get ideas from different sources, including readers like yourself. All right, let's go next question.
Okay, this is Ava.
If you could go back to your book now, is there anything you would change?
That's a good question. Is there anything I would change? So nothing big. There are a lot of writers who feel like their work is never done. Like it could always get better, or they wish they had done something different. I was really lucky because I got to write a sequel to The Unforgettable Logan Foster. And so if there were things that I wished I'd done a little differently, I did do them a little differently in the second book. No, I didn't change things about his character or anything, but I was able to explore more of Logan's personality. What people don't tell you is that when you write a first book in a series, you spend about half that book introducing the reader to the characters and the world and all the important details. So only about half the book is the stuff that's like really interesting about like what happens to them. When you get to write book 2, you get the chance, you already know the characters, so you get to do a lot more stuff and things get bigger and more exciting and the world gets bigger for Logan. And I would say that in book 1, Logan is learning that a lot about emotions. Logan is on the autism spectrum, so he is neurodivergent. He has a healthy brain that works differently than a lot of other people, and so in book 1, he has lived a lot of his life not really dealing with many of his emotions because they weren't helping him. But by book 2, he's now living with a family and he has emotions about that and he has to learn how to deal with it. So it's not something I would go back and change about book 1. It was something that I wanted to do more of than I got to with book 2. Hope that's an okay answer.
All right, Miss Onsred's class, you're next, and then Kendall, you'll be after them. So if you want to have your kids ready to go.
This is Mia.
What was your childhood favorite book?
Oh, what was my childhood favorite book? Thank you, Mia. That's a really good question. When I was growing up, I read a lot of Roald Dahl books and Madeline L'Engle books. Those were like probably the ones that were most popular for me. But there was one book that wasn't by either one of them that I used to love, and it was called The Phantom Toll Booth. I don't know if any of you have read it, but it's so full of word plays, and it's about a kid that ends up journeying to a world that's like a fantasy world where everything is based on wordplay and grammar and things like that. And I was such a word nerd kid that I loved that book because it was an adventure, but it wasn't an adventure with like where you had to be strong and super powered. It was more like you just had to be smart and a good listener. And I thought that was a great book. So The Phantom Tollbooth, I'll say. All right, and next up, I see someone stepping up.
This is Mark.
How long does it take to finish one book?
Oh, good question, Mark. So, wait, I just said good question, Mark. That's punctuation too. It's like the thing I just said about a book about puns. All right, so it depends, and the good news is I'm getting better at it. When I wrote the first version of The Unforgettable Logan Foster, I was very busy. I had never written a book before, and I made myself a promise that I would not go to sleep any nights unless I had written at least one page. And so I wrote a page a night for over 300 consecutive nights, and then I had a first draft. But then I had to rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it. And then once I got some feedback, I rewrote it a bunch of other times. And then once I got an agent, we rewrote it together. And then when it sold, I had an editor and we rewrote it together. So from beginning to end, it was over 7 years from starting to finishing it. Now, I wasn't writing the whole time, but it took all those different passes through it and all the process. When it came time to write the sequel, I wrote it in less than a year. I wrote from beginning to end in less than a year and all those rewrites. So I think I'm getting a little better at it. All right. Next question.
Next, we have Kendall Elementary. So if you guys want to have yours, and then Kraus, you'll be next.
Does anything that happen in the book is anything that happens in the book relatable to your life?
Is anything in the book? First of all, what was your name?
Kara.
Kara. Okay. So you're asking if anything that happened in the book is like related to my own life? Well, so I should tell you, I mean, I don't know how many of you have read the book yet. Raise your hand if you've read the book in any of the classrooms. So just very few. Okay, very cool. So the story is about Logan, who's a 12-year-old orphan who is convinced that he's never going to be fostered again or adopted. And he's on, as I said, he's on the autism spectrum. He also has an eidetic memory. That's why it's called the unforgettable Logan Foster's, because an eidetic memory is somebody that as soon as they see something or hear something, they remember it perfectly for the rest of their lives. And so he gets fostered by Gil and Margie. They are a nice couple, but they're hiding something from him. And what they're hiding from him, and it's a little bit of a spoiler, but it's on the cover of the book, is that they are superheroes and that superheroes are real and that every superhero story, movie, TV show you've ever seen is all just a cover up for the fact that heroes are real and they're all around us. So, did any of this really happen to me? Probably not. Probably not. But what I will tell you is that the reason I gave Logan the superpower sort of having this amazing memory is that when I was your age, that's kind of how my memory worked. I wasn't as good as Logan. I couldn't remember every single thing I ever saw or heard. But there were times in class where the teacher would say, okay, from the reading last night, does anybody remember what year Columbus landed in North America? And not only did I remember that it was 1492, but I also could see where on the page in my brain, I could see where on the page that answer was. And it made me pretty good at school. In fact, it made a lot of my friends really angry with me because they were like, that's cheating. How come you get to do that? And I don't know if it was cheating or whatever, but when I was creating Logan, I wanted some characteristics that were like me. And so Logan is like me. He's also really small, and I was one of the smallest kids in my class. He also is a ninth grader, even though he's only 12 years old, because he got 2 double promotions. And I was going to get a double promotion until my parents said, no, thank you. He's already too small for his grade. He doesn't need to go ahead 1 year and be the smallest person. All right. So those are all very relatable for me. All right. Next question.
Why did you want to become an author?
What's your names?
Ashil?
Ashel. Okay, thank you, Ashel. So here's the secret. Oh my gosh, I'm going to admit this to all of you. The secret is I didn't want to be a writer. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be an actor so bad because my mother used to write for television shows. And both of my parents were writers. My dad was a sports writer and my mother was a TV writer. And I was like, they're really nice, but they're not cool. I want to do something cool. I want to be on camera. So I was living in California and I got myself an agent and I took acting lessons and I came really close to getting a movie with the worst title ever. The worst title ever. And it was called Teeny Weenies. That the worst? So I didn't get the part. The other kid got the part. It was down to the two of us. And then they changed the title, and it's a movie I bet a bunch of you have seen, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Right. So I was this close to being in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but I didn't get it. I kept acting and all the way through my teen years in college. But when I got done with college, I realized I didn't want to live the lifestyle I'd have to live to be an actor in Los Angeles. So I started writing, and I started writing all kinds of bad TV shows and ads and articles and all kinds of different kinds of writing. And the thing that made me want to be a writer was kind of what made me want to be an actor, which is I love the idea of creating characters and living inside other characters and exploring what they would do in different situations. And since I couldn't do it on stage, I now do it on the page. And that rhymes, so you'll probably remember it. Next question.
All right, so we're in Miss Krause's class. And then after will be Bailey, and if you want to have your kids ready, I'll turn it over to them.
We have Naomi. If you could write any book about anything, what would you write it about?
Ooh, well, I mean, I thank you, Naomi. I'm really lucky because I've already gotten to write a book about stuff I really care about. I got to write about superheroes, which was like one of my favorite things growing up. And I also got to write about a kid that feels different and finds a family that lets him know that he doesn't have to change to fit in. So those are pretty good. If I could write a book about anything, I mean, the nice thing about being an author is you can write a book about anything pretty much. It's just no people may not buy it, but you can write it. Gosh, if I could write about anything at all, um, I think I would probably love to write someday a book about theater kids because I was such a theater kid. And I would love to write a book with some like magic in it about the magic of being a theater kid and how when you're all together on stage, um, things happen that are just amazing and that stay with you for the rest of your life. I still am in a group chat with a bunch of kids that I did high school theater with, and we're all in our 50s now, and we still stay in touch because of everything we did together in high school doing theater. So I think someday I got a theater book coming out.
And
Next
then we have
question.
Lincoln.
Do you think your book will ever become a movie?
Man, oh, first of all, what was your name again? I didn't quite hear it.
Lincoln?
Lincoln. Excellent. Lincoln, and you're in the land of Lincoln. Okay. Yes, I hope someday. I think it would be a great movie, and I think it would be fun, or maybe a series, um, because I think it's one of those things that I always liked reading because I could picture the stuff in my brain, and I could kind of make a movie in my brain out of what I was reading. But I think that there's a lot of exciting stuff that would make it a good movie. Do I think it will ever become a movie? I don't have a lot of control over that, but I do know that if it wins, oh, I don't know, the Blue Stem Award in Illinois and maybe a couple of other awards, the chances of it becoming a movie, or at very least there being more Logan Foster books, definitely goes up. But I think that it has those elements that would make it a good movie. I think it's funny. Logan's character is pretty funny. It's got some very cool characters. There's a lot of action, superhero action, people zooming all over the places and using their powers. but it also is a good family story, and I think it's something that families would enjoy together. So I hope so. Maybe one day.
All right, Balian's class will be next, and then Easter's class, you guys will be after them.
My name is Zoe, and who do you love most about being an author and who inspired you?
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Lily. So I was inspired, definitely by both of my parents being writers. Like, and when I say inspired, I meant like the fact that they inspired me to love words and love stories. But they also, when your parents are both writers, you're very privileged to think, well, maybe being a writer is something I could do too. And I think that there's a lot of people in the world that, like, if you don't see it in your life, it's hard to imagine it happening to you. um, so I was very inspired by them. um, and the thing I like most about being a writer, honestly, is actually talking to kids that have read the book or might like to read the book, because you guys are at an amazing time in your life. That it's what I like writing. Why I like writing for middle grade readers is you're at a point in your lives where you're really deciding like what kind of person you want to be and what kind of things you like. And so, when you write for adults, by then they've already decided exactly what kind of books they like and what kind of readers they are, but you all are still deciding it. And so I love getting a chance to talk to you all and see what you're interested in and what gets you excited when you read it in a book. Next up.
Um, what's your, or I'm Aaron, and what's your favorite type of genre to read?
Ooh, all right. Thank you, Aaron. So it's kind of funny because I do read a lot of middle grade books, and that's partially because it's kind of my job. Like, it's hard to write middle grade books if you're not reading them, and I do love middle grade books. But when I'm not reading middle grade books, I really like certain nonfiction kind of writing about social science. There's a gentleman named Malcolm Gladwell who writes all about um, how things we assume are one way are actually not always the case. That advantages can be things that look like advantages can be disadvantages, and vice versa. He writes about how things become popular with just a few people deciding it. So I really do like reading stories about some nonfiction things that happened in ways no one could have predicted. Those are some of my favorite kind of stories too, and it's nice to read stuff that isn't a novel, because that leaves room in my brain to have its own ideas. All right, I know we have about 5 minutes left. Thank you so much, Aaron.
All right, Miss Easter's class, you'll finish us off.
Oh, good. Okay, so we're on schedule.
Say your name. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Cloud, and my question is, would you write the same book from a different point of view?
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Thank you, Cloud. So Um, I think because I know that I don't know how many of you have read Wonder or something, but there have been other novels kind of based on it that talk from different points of view. And I think The Unforgettable Logan Foster is a book that needs to be told from Logan's point of view. I mean, he's in the title, but also he's the person who really grows and changes during the course of the book. So it is important. But I have often thought that his best friend in the book is Elena Arguello. She's a little bit older. She's a really cool character. She's probably my favorite character besides Logan to write in the book. And I've often thought that if I could ever write a prequel, like if I could, she's 15, almost 16 in the book, that if I could write a book about her when she was 11 or 12, I would love to write that. And it would have little tie-ins to what happened later, but it would also, you get a better idea of how she ended up becoming the person she is. So I could see doing that for sure.
Here we got one more question.
All right, one more question.
Hello, my name Hello, my name is Arjun, and my question for you is, did you like literature when you were younger?
Ah, yes. Thank you, Arjun. I did like literature when I was growing up. Um, but it varied, because um like when I was in middle school for a while, I got very into um John Steinbeck and Ernest Hemingway, which aren't necessarily what a lot of people are reading in middle school. Um and I'm sure, and then I went back and read them later in life, and I felt differently about them. I still liked them, but I got something very different. And I think that's one of the cool things about literature, books in general, but specifically literature, is that when you read a piece of literature at a certain point in your life, um, if it's really a well-written piece, and when I think about literature, I'm thinking about books that have stood the test of time a little bit, they mean something to you because they resonate. They mean something to who you are at that moment. But later in your life, you'll have learned new things, you'll have done new things, you may be living in a completely different place. You might have had a few amazing successes or a couple of heartbreaks. And then when you read those books again, they feel different to you. Like a character that you didn't understand before, you do understand better now. Or a character that you thought was just the worst before, suddenly you say, oh, well, maybe they aren't so bad. I can see their perspective. And I think that's something that literature allows us to do. Plus, the biggest thing about literature is you read it and you're guessing what the author wanted you to feel about it. But at the end of the day, as soon as an author writes a book, it belongs to the reader. If you read a book and you feel a way about it, even if the author didn't mean for you to feel that way, that's totally valid. That's kind of the whole point. And that's why, you don't go back and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it after it's out in the world. Once it's out in the world, it belongs to the readers. It belongs to all of you. So yeah, I did enjoy literature growing up, but I also enjoyed comic books a lot. And I enjoyed reading things that weren't considered literature, but just were fun to read because they made me excited or scared, or they opened magical worlds. And I think that whatever kind of reading you like to do is the right kind of reading for you right now. It all makes you a better reader later on.
Well, I just want to thank Shawn Peters for taking the time to talk to our readers today. That was so fun. And thank you for all the students who asked such amazing questions today from all the schools that we had across Illinois. So I just want to say at this point, if you want to unmute, and students, you can say your goodbyes, and we are finished. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us today.
Thank
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.